You're listening to Thunderquack Podcast Network. This is the Thunderquack Podcast, the official podcast of Thunderquack Podcast Network, where anything can happen. So strap yourselves in and hold on to your butts. It's Thunderquack time!
Hello and welcome back to the Thunderquack Podcast, the official podcast of thunderquack.com. There's a whole thing about like it's on Patreon and you get it early if you are on Patreon, or you get it late if you're not. We have Patreon producers Brian Moreski and JJ Samuel, and all of that stuff. You guys know, like, there's no like, I know that like, hey, every podcast is somebody's first episode, and it's like, yes, but also like,
well, now that I'm here,
you look, listen, guys, you walked into the wrong room. Like this is not. I don't know if this is going to be the episode. So let's not even bother. Let's just get right into it. I am one of your hosts, Michael Cohen, and with me, Amanda is not with me this week because she is in Indonesia. She has just arrived within the last 48 hours. She's in her luxurious resort quarantine down there in Indonesia. Go check out her Instagram if you want to see that stuff. It looks like she's actually having a fantastic time so far. But I had to bring in a pinch hitter, and I didn't want to bother Curtis again. So I went, who do I want to have a conversation with? And at the top of my list was Tyler James Nicol, the one and only.
Yes, I'm a backup plan.
Yeah, no, you were the number one person on the reserve list. Like Curtis is the backup plan. Like, that's the thing, and Curtis knows this, is that if Amanda has to duck out for whatever reason, or if I do, that it's like, okay, Curtis will jump in. I know I can rely on him for that, but it's not, there's not really a lot of thought put into that. It's just sort of like a, hey, Curtis, I need you this week. But with this one, it was like, oh, I have to actually think of somebody. And you were honestly the first person that came to mind, because I remember we did the quarantine zone episode way back at the beginning of the pandemic.
Thank God that's all over.
Yeah, when we were like, well, I'm gonna do a what was it? I don't know what I was thinking. That like, it was like, oh, we're stuck in the house with two children. At that point, like a less than 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And somehow I thought that I was going to have the extra energy to record like 4 podcasts a week on top of the ones that I was regularly doing. And I did it. I think I did that but everybody was like, oh, we're all stuck at home. We're all going to do so many things.
Oh,
right?
I tried to fully produce, like I'm going to make people do podcasts. I'm going to show them how you do a podcast. And I like fully scripted some radio plays, and I paid like a sound mixer and musicians and artists. And I made it 3 episodes deep. And I'm like, this is both a lot of time and expensive. I'm out. So if you want 3 really polished episodes of a horror comedy podcast, look up Missing Dial Radio. But
yeah. And so yeah, we had our conversation. I don't even remember what we talked about, but I just remember that we had fun talking about it. And so I was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's get Tyler back on the podcast. But that was where my thought process ended, and you were like, what are we talking about? And I was like, I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
Now we know.
But you came up with a great topic.
I am, and I'm going to start you out here. I found something very important. January 16th of 2020, the Washington Post, by author Abba Badari, wrote an article called "Lego Sets Its Sights on a Growing Market, Stressed Out Adults." That was January 16th of 2020. It's a very well-timed article.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about adult Lego collectors, or as they're known in the community of Lego, AFOLs, AFOL, or adult fan of Lego.
Yeah. In other words, us. Right?
Us, yeah.
I very much us. You and I. Yeah, I mean, like, I am probably a little bit addicted to Lego in a certain it is definitely something that I have too much of, in the sense that when I buy new Lego sets now, I have to decide which ones are gonna go away. And because of the nature of the sets that I purchase, um you would think that this is a simple proposition. You just have a big bucket and you just throw the Lego into the big bucket, right? But no, because at some point in the last 10 years, Lego became more valuable than gold.
Oh yeah, the per piece price and
Yeah.
unique printed piece price, unique color, unique print. It's absurd.
Yeah, so so you got to keep your sets together. So so I have two like medium-sized Rubbermaid containers in our laundry room, like sort of in our storage spot in the laundry room, full of Ziploc freezer bags, the heavy duty ones, with partially disassembled Lego sets, flattened down as much as I can without fully dismantling them.
Which is, an
Because
option.
because they'll be worth something one day. And
That's the thing.
it's
Even in the like out of box, because like Lego
Yeah.
boxes were specifically not meant to be a storage device.
Mhm.
They are an advertisement. They are a nice way to get you the pieces. But like the Lego box was not put out there to be like, this is what you can keep it in for 20 years. Like, no,
Yeah.
that thing like folds like a cheap table.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you do have boxes for certain things, that's even more. And I do keep the boxes for the bigger ones, like the Jurassic Park, like the T-Rex and the gate. I've still got the box for that one, because
That is a nice
one
one.
day if I wanted to resell it, then that'll be of benefit to me. And I kept the box for the Razor Crest, because I got the Razor Crest before they changed the printing, the name on the box. Because at a certain point,
Is now it's like the Mandalorian's ship or something.
yeah, it's the Mandalorian's transport or something like that. Bounty Hunter transport or something like that.
And the good news is assembled or disassembled still screen accurate, so it's good.
Perfect. But yeah, because they ran into a copyright issue with the name Razor Crest in somewhere in Europe. So they were okay, well, we just got to get Razor Crest off of this, and so yeah, now it's just I think it's Bounty Hunter Transport or something like that. But yeah, I have one of the boxes that says Razor Crest on it, so I kept that box.
The good news is there could never be like month-long Twitter wars about Lego changing the name of a Star Wars ship to be something simpler.
Yeah, no, that would never happen.
That would be an absurdity to happen.
Because
anyone who engaged in that would also be absurd.
If we know anything about Star Wars fans, it's that
level-headed,
they are calm, measured in their response to new ideas, and above all, thoughtful and considerate.
Why man spin then shoot? Why man spin then shoot, Michael?
Good God. So I don't know. I don't think I've talked about it on this podcast yet, because it happened after we recorded the most recent episode.
I don't mean to cross the streams for you too hard here.
No. Because I gotta tell everybody, I'm done Star Wars podcasting. I finished. I after we did the Student Bodies episode and Boba Fett ended, it just clicked for me. I was like, I don't have to do this.
No one's making you.
Yeah. People are kind of making me do this Thunderquack thing because of Patreon, but Rebel Cells and monsters. Faster, More Intense. Yeah, you guys are just it's just dance monkey dance up here, right? But yeah, like with the Star Wars ones, it's like we have an audience and it's a decent sized audience, but it's not as big as it was in years past. And it's not like I'm leaving a a big empty hole in the community. There are plenty of Star Wars podcasts doing a much better job than we were.
Name one.
I will name 10. But I'll start with What the Force, which is my favorite Star Wars podcast. Go listen to that instead. Marie Claire is much smarter than I am, and what I found is that I started listening to her podcasts, and then my podcast just ended up being me going, yeah. So I was listening to this episode of this other Star Wars podcast, and I think that they have something really interesting to say. You should go listen to them.
Yeah.
So
It's like early episodes of My Favorite Murder podcast.
hmm,
The start of that one was all them just going like, so on last podcast on the left, those guys did a great job of talking about this. And it's like, oh, I'd like to hear your take. Like, go ahead.
yeah. So yeah, so I made the decision of like, and it was funny because it was like this decision of like, I'm not gonna podcast about Star Wars anymore. Um and
Now
all
let's
of a
discuss
sudden
all the upcoming sets. So in September, we have
all of a sudden this weight lifted off of me because I no longer like, because with those shows it's a weekly obligation when the shows are happening, and there's like a
Mhm.
timeline of like, oh, we got to get this out because if we wait too long then we're behind, and then right, like
Well, I
it's
mean, the biggest problem, not the biggest, one of the problems, one of the myriad of problems with the Star Wars community is the rush to be first.
yeah,
Like, it's
yeah,
just like, and it's so weird to me because it's like, hey guys, like, we know it came out and we know you watched it. Should we be proud of you? Are we celebrating? Like, what part of you doing this first makes you the best at it?
yeah.
Like,
It's
I
all,
would have
but it's
taken
all
you
it's all
time to
the
maybe make a
the
considerated choice on it, but
yeah,
that's
it's all
fine.
the YouTube algorithm though, right? Like that's sort
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what drives all of this attitude and this behavior, and all of the negativity and stuff like that. Like that's where it all comes from, is like, that's, you get it out fast and you say something that pisses people off, and all of a sudden you're on the front page of YouTube and you're raking in cash. And that's never been like, that just doesn't mesh with me. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be sensationalist unless I feel like actually being sensationalist, right? I'm not going to do it for the money. If I say something ridiculous and outlandish, it's because I actually believe it, and I want you to come fight me because I believe in, like, because I'm taking a stand, right? Not just because it's gonna feed the algorithm and get me more eyeballs. So yeah, it just like I think all of that stuff, everything that's just been happening in Star Wars over the last couple of years, really since The Last Jedi, it's just like, you know what? I don't have to engage with this thing that I love in this way that is actually not doing anything for me
You
anymore.
can engage with it in a tiny bricky way, which brings us back to the thing I talked about
Exactly.
20 minutes ago.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm really excited to just going back to being a Star Wars fan and not a Star Wars podcaster.
Right?
Uh,
And
and
like
just
there again, I'm a strong believer again. I say again, it's really a part of my vocabulary because I assume everyone else is having the conversations I have with myself in my brain. Um but just like there is, technically speaking, putting a big old asterisk next to it, no wrong way to be a fan. And then the footnote is that on is unless you're telling someone else how to be a fan,
Mhm.
which has the like only a Sith deals in absolutes thing where you're like, well, if you're telling me not to be a shitty fan, you're telling me how to be a fan. Ha ha
Yeah,
ha. Trick trick, one loophole, I win. But you know what I mean, and don't be that person. And like hey, if the prequels are all you love, is great, all power to you. If you only know it from the cartoons, that's great. If the only way you've ever engaged with Star Wars is to play the absolutely magnificent Lego Star Wars games, then that's a super valid way to have
yeah,
fandom for this thing.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, like I don't know, I'm just psyched to watch Obi-Wan Kenobi and only talk about it when I feel like talking about it. And I think one of the biggest things is kind of what you were saying, is like that rush to be first, as opposed to like taking some time to digest it and think about it as like a holistic thing instead of reacting week to week to an incomplete
Mhm.
story. It's just when you're forced to have an opinion you're gonna find things to be critical about that actually don't matter. Like actually at the end of the day, the Book of Boba Fett told a very good Star Wars
Yep.
story. There are some choices in it that I don't agree with, that in any context I'd be like, well, you really shouldn't have just killed all of those characters to further the story of one character and then not addressed it again for the rest of the season, until the last 5 minutes of the final episode, sort of thing. But overall, like, it's like, this is actually really cool, and they took a character that I actually kind of had grown to loathe because of what he represented to a lot of the fandom. And they actually like broke him down and made him a nuanced, interesting character that I quite love. Which it's the second time that Dave Filoni has been associated with this sort of deconstruction of a character for me. Because like Darth Maul was a character where I was like, yep, all sizzle, no steak, just 100% a look. Ray Park did an amazing job. Turns out he might be a garbage human being. The jury is still
Peter
out on that,
Serafinowicz did a great job voicing him, so we can give him that.
Yeah. And then Sam Witwer comes in and is like, oh no, like he's a Sith Lord, which means there's a lot going on inside his head. We just didn't get to see a lot of it. Like, we got his one line of like, at last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have our revenge. And it's like, okay, whatever. But it's like, oh, actually, no, like, this is like now we know this is like the culmination of a bunch of things for him. And all of a sudden he becomes the foil to Obi-Wan Kenobi in a certain way, which
Kenobi?
Yeah. And yeah, so like they did it again with Boba, where it's like all of a sudden I care about Boba Fett and I care about Tuskens. There's like, these are two things in Star Wars that I could just, like, yeah, Boba's got a cool helmet, jetpacks are neat, but that's really as far as that goes. He died like a punk, just like his dad. But then they're like, no, he didn't. He crawled his way out of the Sarlacc pit and was transformed. And he came out of the belly of the beast a different man, and then became a Tusken, and then did this cool ceremonial dance that you're going to get super excited about. It's like, okay, rad. And then he's going to adopt a bunch of cybernetic street punks on Tatooine, and evil Chewbacca is going to be one of his best friends. And I'm like, you know what? I'm here for all of this. And then they're like, also he's gonna ride a Rancor, like
like a bantha.
Yeah.
He's just gonna make Boba's house for wayward criminals and just
yeah, he's just gonna pick up as many strays as he can along the way.
I wish I knew who to accredit the tweet to, but one of my favorite things was, I'm so sorry that the character who stood behind Darth Vader that you got a tattoo of didn't live up to your expectations.
That's perfect.
Right? It's like, but like, all the side lore and all this other stuff. Well, one, we've already said none of that counts. And two, like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's, you know what, the majority of Boba Fett's backstory and like the stuff that's been deleted from the canon, they're like bad Batman stories in space. That's it's just. And then Boba Fett did a thing because he's got a gadget. Okay, all right, I guess, like, just lazy Batman stories. But anyways,
Lego.
Let's talk about Lego.
Welcome to it.
Yeah.
If you clicked on this because you saw the title Adult Lego, then we are finally gonna get around to it.
Well, if you saw it, I don't think that I'm going to title this episode Adult Lego, because that might also be.
I have been just crafting brick-shaped schweens. Is that not a? And you, listener at home, can decide what part of the anatomy the schween is.
Yeah, I like that. That keeps it nice and PG-13, which is right in our sweet spot.
You're welcome.
Because it's like, maybe that's just a funny way of
you can't be offended if you can't be offended if you don't know what it is.
It's a yeah.
So I'm gonna read you. I did some research.
Yeah, you actually like did work.
Seriously,
it's not how we do things around here, but that's fine. Go ahead.
So, according to Carrie Barron, director of the Creativity for Resilience program at the University of Texas at Austin Dell's Medical School, that's right. I even check up on my quotes. Any repetitive activity, Embroidering, sweeping, or clicking together Lego bricks can help strike a balance between mental engagement and relaxation. To focus singularly on a task is a form of mindfulness, they say. And I find that's what Lego is for me. I use Lego genuinely as a reward to ward off stressful situations. Like if I know I have stress coming up, I buy a Lego set before the stress so I can look forward to it all through the stress. And then at the end, just have that full Zen thing. Again, this is from Carrie Barron, which just like it really helps to have structure, a path, and an idea that if you follow this path, you will have an achievement at the end of it. And that is, it's for someone with like stresses and unknown quantities in their life. The fact that like I got this book, I got a bag full of a puzzle. The book tells me the instructions to the puzzle like a cheat code. Like, and then at the end of this, I get a thing I can look at that's going to be cool looking.
And when you get into the more adult oriented sets, it becomes a thing of like, because I kind of, when I build them, I'm looking for the ingenuity, right? Smarter people than me are putting these things together and building the instructions. Like it's their whole job, and it's a dream job, but it's something that I don't think I could ever do. My brain just doesn't work that way. But I am smart enough to appreciate it, which is a nice sweet spot to be in, because it takes all the responsibility away from me, right? It's like,
no, you don't have to be responsible for anything. You know, like if there was even a missing piece, you're like, well, someone else is responsible for that. That's not even my problem. Like,
so when it's like when I'm building the Razor Crest and I get to a point where it's like where I'm putting together, you know how it is with the bigger sets where there's like you have to do a lot of framing first, sort of like the structure of the inside of it. You might be putting together certain things and you're like, I don't even know what this is, and then it starts to come together and it starts to look like the thing that it's going to be, and you realize that like, oh, all of that really complicated building that I had to do actually turns out it's this like mechanical component, so that when I do this one thing, it's gonna do a bunch of stuff. Right.
I will say, I think the best examples of that, and this is only because I haven't gotten the typewriter set, which is like high on my wish list, is the NES and TV set. Has so much going on for it. There are so many different components. It looks really simple. It's a little TV with a crank wheel and like a tiny NES with a controller. It looks dead simple from the outside. But the fact that the NES does like the pop and click proper when you put the little cartridge in, the fact that the Mario on it has the level design so that he moves up and down naturally on it without getting stuck. Like all these tiny things that you deeply appreciate once it's all together. But as you're building, you're like, why does it matter if I put a mushroom in this spot, not higher in the air where I want it? It's like, no, like that's being used as the directional path for the Mario that moves on top of it. Like it's absurd. It's amazing.
And there's other little clever things in certain sets, like I mentioned the Jurassic Park gate one, and that T-Rex. It's massive, and when you're building the body of Rexy,
yes.
You get to a certain point in the instructions, and it's like, now grab this little one-piece frog stud and just place it in the middle of the body of the Tyrannosaurus. And you're like, this serves no purpose other than the fact that they know that I am a huge Jurassic Park fan. And now I know that, like, there's a little bit of frog DNA in this Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Bingo, just dino DNA.
Just a little tiny piece. And it's just little stuff like that on like I said, like the more adult oriented sets. Well, like anything over $150, right? Anything over $150 is just for adults.
The NES one has the little hidden Mario level on the side of the NES. If you like pull off the side, it's got that built into the bricks.
Nice.
The Thor hammer, the Mjolnir. Someone else is going to say it better than me. Thor's hammer coming up actually houses a little tiny Odin's vault inside.
Nice.
Because it's such a simple design. It's just a big square. So like, well, they have to add play value to this. So yeah, you can just slide open the middle of the hammer, and it's got like a little tiny Tesseract and a little tiny gauntlet inside of it that you can just like, that's fun. That's because someone saw this and they're like, listen, my job's done. I can hand in this project.
Yeah.
No one would complain. It does and looks like it's supposed to. but you know what would be neat? It's just
Yeah.
a little secret for you because you built it. So you know that's there and you can show people it, but they don't know it's not there because they didn't build it. So they don't have that little extra knowledge of it.
Yeah, well, that's like the gate. They could have just made the gate for Jurassic Park, but they didn't. You flip it around, and on the back side of it are 6 scenes from the movie,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and so there's like 6 little like tableau scenes on the back side of it, so you can choose how to display it, or when you get tired of displaying it one way, you flip around and display it another way, right? Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it is definitely an aspect of our arrested development, the being gigantic children that we are. But
So this is I want to pause you right there.
yeah, go ahead.
Because this is a very interesting point that I had to bring up to someone the other day. So for those of you uninitiated with who I am as a human being, hi, I'm Tyler James Nicol. I work on the internet and do things, but I also make the entirety of my success through nerd franchises. I won't name them now in case I have a terrible opinion later, but trust me when I say that they are long-lasting, enduring, internationally beloved nerd franchises.
Yes.
Um, and so I was talking to one of my friends, and their 13-year-old, which is weird that I'm at a point where my friends have 13-year-olds, but but their 13-year-old was getting upset because they still like air quotes childish things. And my advice to them, they're like, "What do I do? Because you write for these things. Like, what do we do here?" And I'm like, "Well, tell them that every childish thing they've ever seen was made by a grown up.
Hmm.
Like, there's not these factories. It's not." Big starring Tom Hanks where they hired a bunch of kids who are in grown-up bodies fooling everyone to go through like every toy, every video,
Yeah.
everything that was made by a team of dedicated 40 somethings who were probably making dirty jokes as they did it, but
Yeah.
who still like put the time and effort in to craft these things and put them in the world. So like the idea that like, oh, you're grown up, the childish play should go away, well then who's gonna make the toys? like there's gonna be no toys left then
Yeah.
for the children if the childishness goes out of the adults. That's gonna be a huge shame because we drove that out of them to like you shouldn't play and
For
enjoy
sure.
things. It's like, but what if we're toy makers? Like I
Well,
think
yeah, I say like the Arrested Development thing as sort of like a tongue in cheek
oh yeah, I wasn't
component of
saying
it,
you, I
right?
was just taking the
Yeah.
opportunity.
No, but no, I mean like, but it goes into one of the points that I wanted to make talking about this stuff, which is that like it's from the outside, and we talked earlier. I don't know, was that in the regular episode or in the post show? But
Michael, I'm deeply offended that you made me try to recall time
yeah, I apologize.
in this economy.
Yeah. I'd sort of mentioned, like neurotypical versus whatever our brains are.
Yes.
And which I personally think that neurotypicality is a myth. Like nobody's neurotypical. There are just some people who don't have any fun, right?
Neurotypical is like saying room temperature,
Yeah,
where it's like,
exactly.
yeah, there's the room you're in and the temperature it is right now. That's gonna even if you can agree on a number, it's still gonna vary a little bit, a little
Yeah.
tiny bit. So let's call them
Um
that for now. Room temperature brains
yeah, like
are different.
it's one of those things where people will sort of like talk down to you about certain things, and like and certainly in the workplace tends to be the most common place where this comes up. Probably less so for you,
I mean,
but
it still honestly comes up, and then we'll have a
yeah.
discussion about what the robot fights are going to be next week. Where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
um but yeah, like people will say to me in that casual chit chat before a meeting starts, it's like, oh, you like those star things, and it's like, I know that you're being derisive right now, but like it like I am happy when I am being
Yeah.
into those star things. Like it
Also,
brings me a
yeah,
great
bud,
deal of joy that I don't think you're able to quantify.
this
um
billion-dollar merchandising franchise was built solely off of children's allowances. You're right. No
yeah.
grown-up has ever bought one of these.
Yeah, totally. Um, so yeah, it's just always like I end up pitying that person a lot more than I think they pity me, whether they realize that or not, because so much of it is just like, wow, like like what little joy do you have in your life that you have to like come at somebody else for liking certain things? And my house is essentially decorated with Lego, like the whole house. I don't think there's a room in this
Yeah.
house.
Well,
Maybe
that's like
the
by
bathrooms don't have Lego in them,
by
but other than
standard
that,
Lego collector, I'm actually a very light collection, and I have a quarter of a room dominated by Lego.
yeah.
And it's like I don't think I'm saying here, I don't think you have a dedicated full Lego city in your house,
No,
but there
no, I
are
don't.
many people who do. I
Yeah.
have 4 buildings worth. I have the Daily Bugle, the Sanctum Sanctorum, and the Haunted House as buildings. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean the biggest set that I have is that T-Rex.
Mm. Oh, speaking of, and I want to let you know, I don't know if you saw. Have you seen
The new
the
one.
new T-Rex at Breakout set?
Yeah, yeah, I
It's
have.
so pretty. It's so. I'm sorry to make you have to need this,
I know.
but one, it's so pretty. Two, it comes with a soaking wet Ian Malcolm. Which,
Yeah,
for those of you out there, if you need a soaking wet Jeff Goldblum Lego fig, good news. I found one for you. But again, in
yeah,
terms of design, I love that it comes with a Jurassic Park Jeep because you need that. But then it also comes with a broken upside down one that's presumably affixed to the ground that the T-Rex can step on. Because
yeah.
it's like, I love that you can use Lego to make a broken object out of Lego that is, technically speaking, a perfectly made Lego object.
Yeah, yeah. When I am finished, this will be broken. Yeah,
Right? Like,
yeah,
I have, even in the Daily Bugle, like the sidewalks all chipped and stuff, and it actually
yeah,
takes a lot of extra effort to make a cool looking, messed up, broken sidewalk because
yeah.
Sandman just came down it. Um, so there's that. They also are making one, for those of you Googling actively at home as you listen, the Pyroraptor and Dilophosaurus set comes with Silver Fox Ian Malcolm. So this year, we get 2 Jeff Goldblum Lego minifigures, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. Man, he's got I guess two characters, right? Because he's also got because they've got a grandmaster,
Oh, there's 100% a Grandmaster figure, yeah.
yeah, figure. Chris Pratt, I think, still holds the record for the most
Yeah, because he has
characters.
obviously his Lego figure unfairly puts him over. I mean, if you take every version of the Will Arnett Batman figure, then I think he technically has more minifigs, but
Yeah,
not of unique characters, just of unique costumes for the same character.
yeah,
Then that title definitely goes to Will Arnett. But
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it depends on how you feel about Chris Pratt. But these days, I don't think that there's a lot of people who feel particularly great about him.
so I have
Um,
in my wallet, there
yeah,
was a charity event where if you paid a bunch of money, you would get a gold coin that says redeemable for 1 free Pratt attack. And we live in a film town, so I've kept that in my wallet since I got that. Every day there's been a Chris Pratt coin in my wallet. And at this point, I'm worried what that would instigate.
yeah.
Like before, it was like, that might get me a hug. That would be delightful. And now I'm like, the idea of initiating a Pratt attack is a horrifying ordeal I do not wish to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's part of an organization that has some interesting views on who is and is not a valid human being. So,
Well, he himself, for legal purposes, has never outwardly expressed these views
yes.
in an overt fashion. He
Yeah.
merely endorses and funds people who do. I would like to be very clear
Yeah.
that
No.
Chris Pratt himself has never vocalized any opinion that would be negative towards marginalized groups that I know of.
Yeah. Certainly not to us.
Certainly not directly to me in a way that I would be able to substantiate in court.
It's one of those things where it's like, but I trust James Gunn, right?
Right.
So if James Gunn vouches for him, then it's like but
yeah, it's still like it's one of those, but like even still, even vouch for, I probably don't want to hang out with the guy, which is like a bummer inside because so many of his characters I'd want to hang out with. But it's like, you as a person, I bet you we'd get half an hour into an awkward conversation and just be done.
Yeah. But thankfully we can just talk to his Lego figures, of which I have a great many. Because I've definitely got an Emmett. I've got I don't think I have a Star-Lord, but I do have multiple Jurassic Park ones. What's his character in Jurassic?
I was literally about to say, and his character in Jurassic Park, you know, Chris Pratt.
Yeah, Chris Pratt.
Like, it's just, I'm sure he has
Mustache
a
Pratt.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. So here, I'll ask you a question about Lego so that we can get off the Chris Pratt conversation.
Please, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God, capital G. Thank you, Chris Pratt.
Yeah. What's the crown jewel in your Lego collection?
I mean, I think the Daily Bugle's a very fun set. It's very big. It dominates the room. I got it because it comes with 30 minifigures, and one of them is J. Jonah Jameson. And I'm not saying that I have in my life at least once worked officially as the voice of J. Jonah Jameson, but I'm also not saying that. So so I like my Daily Bugle, but I think my favorite one right now is the Ecto 1 Afterlife. The full-size Ecto 1.
Yeah.
It was a really fun build. It has so many moving parts and has so much functionality. You can turn both the steering wheel and a little knob on the top to actively turn the wheels on it. If you open the hood, you can actually see an engine inside. It has this like side door with the gunner seat that slides out. It has the little RC car that actively pops out the back. It is a magnificent build. It's real sticker heavy. And I honestly didn't put on the like wear and tear stickers because I thought they looked ugly as hell.
Yeah.
Because even though you're supposed to be making it look ugly because it's got like rust and stuff on it, putting a little rust sticker on something to me looks terrible because it's like you can see the little clear outline of the sticker and then the rust on top, and it just makes it so much more evident that you put it there. Whereas if it was like a printed unique piece, which would have been absurd, it would have been way too many printed pieces, I get that. But if it was a printed unique piece, it would have been like, oh cool, that's just like part of the piece that happens to go there, rather than like, I chose this part for rust. Like, But overall, that is still the prettiest one. And I do have the 3 Ectos. I've got original Ghostbusters Ecto, Ghostbusters Answer the Call Ecto, Ghostbusters Answer the Call, a film I have enjoyed repeatedly, and Ghostbusters Afterlife Ecto.
We differ on opinions on Answer the Call, but that's okay.
I enjoy it not as a Ghostbusters film.
There you go. That's the perfect way to enjoy it.
I see it. I see it as a film where they happen to shoot lasers at ghosts, and that's fun.
Yeah.
But more, I want to just honestly, if there was just a button to say just Holtzman scenes, that would be a better film.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, like, it's so weird because it is one of those. It's always going to be like a recency bias, I think, with Lego sets, because it's kind of like, well, what's the one that you had the most fun building lately?
It's really like, it's a favorite movie problem where it's like, well, what genre of Lego would you like me to tell you my favorite part of?
Yeah, because I think for me right now, I would probably say the Sonic the Hedgehog set.
I mean, obviously, I was gonna say that's a great set.
It's a fantastic set. It was a beast to put together. There are a lot of individual stuff.
Well, that's why that set, and again, showing like the innovation and play, because I watched you play that one, like build that online, and it was very fun to watch the stage goes up. But the fact that it gives you a little crystal reward for making it through another part of the build.
Yeah, it's like, here's another Chaos Emerald.
It's like, oh my god, you actually made it through that? All right, bud, here, add this to the display. You're doing great. Here's another little jelly bean on the page that you read to.
It's a lot of like, okay, and now we're making the checkered board pattern like
manually. I can tell you the worst build of my set, and I apologize if somehow by magic the master builder who was involved with this is listening. It is very pretty in theory for what you've done. It's got a lot going on for it, but I bought the Batwing, like the giant Michael Keaton Batman plane set.
Yeah,
I did not enjoy that. I still have it up because I don't know what else to do with it, but I originally bought it because a big thing of their marketing was like, it's wall mountable. I'm like, oh cool, like I like that idea. And in my head, and I don't know why, there was no proof of this online, this is a me problem. I'm so Canadian that I'm just like apologizing for my apologies. But like, I thought that there's going to be some sort of like Lego mount that you build, attach that to the wall, and then put the thing on the wall so you can take it on and off. Mountable means there is a there is a well-structured hole through the center of it that if you were so inclined, you could drill a screw through.
Yeah, that doesn't.
And
Yeah, that's not
the
gonna
way
do
that
it.
the structure of it is set up around that, it would support the weight of the model.
Yeah,
But there's like, first of all, it's an all black brick set, which is just so terrible to get through
yeah,
because the instructions can only do so much to help you at that point. And the edge wings of the Batwing are actually affixed by several elastics to give it that perfect curve. So it's almost like a rule breaking set for how I think Lego should work, where like you need elastics and strength. Like it goes a little bit of technic kind of on that part,
yeah,
but to give that perfect curve to it, because that's not how the Lego bricks are going to click together at that exact angle they need. You have to like build this big floppy edge piece and then like really carefully. I had to use tweezers because of my giant fingers, like tweezer it into hooks you've built into the inside, and it was just, oh, every part of that was agony. I still have it up, but like that thing might end up at Toy Traders.
yeah. You know what? I mean, like, I would say probably sooner rather than later, because any of those sets with rubber bands have a lifespan, right?
That's true.
Because the rubber bands eventually dry out and then become brittle. So,
I will say
uh,
directly under it is the Adam West Batman 66 car, and I love
yeah,
that thing. It comes on a little rotating base. It came with a Cesar Romero Joker figure.
with the
Um,
mustache.
with the mustache painted on underneath, and
Yeah,
also, and this is in the sense that they know who their audience is, which is brilliant about Lego, is that it came with the play feature where if you wanted little shooty guns on the top because you're a kid playing with it, you can do that.
yep.
But they also gave you the bricks to just like not put those on it and make it look like it's supposed to, which I
I
do love that
Yeah,
as just the option.
I really appreciated that they put that extra piece in there of like, yeah, we know who's actually buying this one,
Mhm.
because there's not a lot of kids who are like, oh boy, Adam West, um
Which,
which is
how dare
unfortunate.
they?
Yeah, tragic. It's tragic. I mean,
I will say
like
thanks
learn some history,
to
kids.
the Lego Batman movie,
Yeah,
I have the full Lego figure of Vincent Price, which is amazing to have. But I have the Egghead figure on his egg mech, that's up in my Vincent Price collection. And the fact that like that's the level of esoteric weirdness that Lego can bring in, like
yeah,
I was watching some behind the scenes stuff from a master builder that was talking about like how come in some of their sets they'll do like a little pack-in comic or they make a little show. And one of the best examples is when the Wolverine Origins movie came out, because you knew this conversation was eventually going to get to Wolverine Origins. Um, that movie was a bit above, like there was like a hard PG-13 movie,
yeah,
and it was a bit above what Lego would want to do for a set. So, but they still wanted a set of Wolverine taking down the helicopter with Deadpool inside, and they're like, "Cause that's a cool set." And they're like, "Magneto can be there too, because we're not going to make it movie accurate, whatever." So they made Wolverine, they made the helicopter. You get a little Deadpool that's a good version of Deadpool, not the Origins version.
Mhm.
Um, and they just did a pack-in comic that explains what the set is, so that you could hand that to a kid, and the story still made sense to them. But for a grown-up, you knew that this was a scene from the movie. And I'm like, that level of genius where they're like really thinking of the audience. They know there's like the cross, like again, like the ages like 9 to 99 thing on the box. Like they know who they're making it for and they embrace that. Particularly in the ideas program sets, which are definitely just for adult build
yeah,
enjoyment.
yeah.
Uh, there's one coming out this year I am crazy excited for. I don't know where the hell I'm going to put it, but I want it so much. Have you seen the motorized lighthouse that got through the ideas program?
I've briefly seen it in emails and stuff, but I haven't looked at the details of it.
Oh,
So it goes like the lighthouse actually rotates on its own.
so yeah, so it's a little clunky design to get into it. So you have to pull off, like I love Lego that's just when it's done.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But in this one, to turn on the light, you have to like pull apart the top build of the lighthouse, activate the light brick. And then the cool function is you can either hand crank at the bottom to turn it around, or if you want to put the power brick inside, you can actually like remove a couple side bricks on the cliff and hit the
Mhm.
button. This is a design by a designer called Roses Must Build, and it's in scale so that the minifigure size is the size of the award minifigure. So imagine a minifig holding an Oscar.
Mhm.
It's in scale, so the Oscar is the human
Yeah.
size in this
Yeah.
set. For the listeners at home, but it is literally, if you look at it from afar, you're like, oh, that's a really cool tiny island with a lighthouse on top. Like, it's because the style of Lego works so perfectly for that idea.
Yeah.
And the same thing, like my Lego bonsai tree. Like, if you take a couple steps back, it's a tiny plastic bonsai tree. Like, you wouldn't know that that's
Yeah.
Lego.
That's one that I've been on the fence about, and it's always like, oh, you better hurry up and get stuff before it disappears, because once it's gone, it's gone. But
wait, and they luckily reissued Ship in a Bottle.
Mm.
And Ship in the Bottle is one of my favorite sets because it's pure absurdity. Because the point of a ship in the bottle is how hard it was to do that. It's an impossible object. You shouldn't be able to have a thing that's tall. It wouldn't fit through the neck of the bottle. You know someone had to put it in there, but it's still a little bit of magic to see it in there. Whereas the Lego version, you know how I got it in there because you can see the big seams in the Lego, which makes it hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Like, I love it so much that it's like, it's a ship in the bottle. So you broke a bottle apart and rebuilt it with a ship inside? Sure did. Like,
Yeah.
That's all it is. And there's a bunch of loose blue pieces at the bottom that represent water, about 100 of them, so that they could up the price of the set. Like, it's amazing.
They just did that treehouse a little while ago, and it's a beautiful set. But it's insane. It's $270 Canadian, and I can't justify buying it because it comes with the green leaves for the tree, but then it also comes with the orange leaves, like the fall foliage. And for those who don't know, the way that they price Lego sets is actually it's per brick, right? And sometimes that makes sense. Sometimes it works. And it's not crazy, and you're like, yes, the build that I'm gonna do is totally worth the value of like what they've priced the set at. But then every once in a while they do sets, and it's like, this is all, like, the architecture ones are a really good example of this because of the scale that they're in. It's like, this set is all of like 8 inches wide by like 3 inches tall. It is not a big display piece, and yet this set is over $70. And the reason why is because it's priced per brick, and it is like, I don't know how many bricks, but like whatever that nets out to, right?
Well, I was watching a video too that was by a YouTuber, Emma Soros, that was talking about the additional cost you get on top of that for a licensed brick.
Yeah.
Because, like, a licensed brick costs more than a brick. A unique brick costs more than a brick, which you were saying earlier, like, from the secondary market.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that will buy whole sets to literally get, like, 1 or 2 unique pieces out of it that they can then flip online for the same price of the whole set.
Yeah, totally. And so, like, there's an economy to it, because you'll look at it and you'll go like, well, this set's actually pretty big, but it's not that many pieces, so it's actually it's economically it's a good set for a display piece. But they've got the with this next batch of sets, I think, maybe it's the March 1st ones, it might be later, but they've got the N1 from Mandalorian, right? And when they showed that in the show, I said it on the podcast, I was like, oh, I gots to have it. I gots to have it. There's no way that that's not going up next to the Razor Crest and Boba Fett starship, which we are not allowed to say the actual name of anymore.
Well, there's another set coming out that's the Dark Trooper attack set that's like Luke attacking the Dark Troopers on the bridge, and there's no way that people are not going to just be buying that as a Dark Trooper troop builder set, because you get 3 troopers with that. It's got some really cool stuff. It's got this little turning hallway thing. It's got a force action thing where you pull a slide and the little character goes towards it, because again, it's a word I use, but like, a commitment to whimsy is my favorite thing in this cursed existence we all have to share. Where it's just like, take something silly and do it so seriously and do it with so much commitment. And that is why I do love a theme park. I walk onto the set of a theme park, and I look around and I'm like, every part of this is designed to separate me from my money, and by God, they'll get it. I agree with that thing, and I will come out of here smiling, and I am very lucky and happy to be in a place where I can have that thought, but still, like, that's the purpose of this trap, and I have willfully stepped into it.
Yeah, just fry GIF, right? Like that's just it. Just
Yeah.
here you go. Here you go.
In the words of Paul F. Tompkins, I think I like theme parks so much because I hate money, and I just want to be rid of it, and that's a nice place where it can go.
There you go. But yeah, speaking of just being rid of money, like that N1 set, it's like it is not a very big set, especially compared to other starships. The Boba Fett starship was $69. And the N1 is 79. When like Boba Fett starship, it's gonna very easily be bigger, quite a bit bigger than this one. But because of the
likely more
design of
play
that
features too.
yeah, because of the design of that ship, because it is like a deconstructed N1 starfighter, it's got all these exposed bits, which means that it's full of single studs. It's full of like little greebles and
then
bits
they
and
clued
bytes
into
or whatever.
that, and now they sell the single stud portraits.
Yeah.
So you can get like, it's for a marketing idea. Whoever thought of this should have gotten 10 raises and like lifted upon the shoulders of the masses for the brilliance of money making that this was. I can't know if you can tell, but I worship at the feet of capitalism. But it's, you know, it's a system I'm stuck in. I might as well show it some praise. It's terrible. It's terrible, broken system. But you can get, for those of you who don't know, you can get these portraits. They're a nice little square portrait, and it gives you instructions and enough bricks to make 3 different portraits on it. And so there's like a Batman one, there's some Star Wars one, they did the Beatles, they've doing, I think an Elvis one is just coming out.
Yeah.
But the trick to this Iron Man, yes, thank you. So the trick to the set is, though, if you buy 3 or 4 of these $150 sets, you can make one big picture.
Yeah.
So not only are they getting people who are buying the 3 or 4 for the thing, but then they buy a double because they also want the small ones. So for the fact of having 4 portraits on the wall, this person might have spent $1,000.
Yep. And for real, the Iron Man one, which was the first one that they did, it was a conversation. It was definitely like there was an inner monologue that happened, and then there was also a dialogue that happened with Crystal of like, it's ridiculous, right? Like because like I'd kind of come to the conclusion of like, well, you're not gonna do this, right? Because the first time it falls off the wall and the pieces scatter to the 4 winds,
done forever.
It's like, cool, well, I guess that's not going back up. And it's like, I love the idea of like, well, you buy 3 of them and then you get Iron Man shooting his repulsor in a very like dynamic scene. But yeah, like it's $450. And so I had come to the conclusion on my own, this is ridiculous, but then I needed outside confirmation that I wasn't, you know, because every once in a while I'll be like, no, this is a silly thing to buy. And then I'll say to Crystal, I'll be like, look at this thing. This is a silly thing to buy, right? And she'll go, well, if it makes you happy. And it's like, I'm sorry.
How dare you support me in this manner?
You can't give me that kind of permission to do things, especially the nature of my childishness. Because like the other aspect of this is that like adult Mike makes very sound decisions, very, very reasonable financial decisions about, you know, what we should do. We'll buy a house, and, you know, these are the things that we're going to have to do in order to do that. I can be a very responsible human being. I have 2 children and they're both still alive. And I get left alone with them all the time. It's crazy.
And you're like wholly responsible for other human lives that depend upon you to make decisions.
Yeah, exactly. But then the part of my brain,
what God would allow this, Chris Pratt?
Yeah, exactly. What grand design is this? But then the part of my brain that is specifically, and I'm going to use this word, with full knowledge of the context and sort of connotation. The part of my brain that gets tweaked by buying things like Lego sets is not the adult part of my brain. So don't give that 8-year-old the credit card, right? Like, that's the thing, because if you give him the credit card and you say whatever makes you happy, he's gonna go, really, and order way too many things
Well,
that yeah,
part of
it's
this
not good.
too,
Then I have to have a
as we
fight with myself, you know.
as we discussed with the sets, because it's more than just the objects they make. It's more than like this, like, oh, this
Yeah.
made a cool Star Wars or Marvel thing. The act of making it is very special to people. And if I might quote from you from Abby Heaton's book, "Build Yourself Happy: The Joy of Lego Play," because again, I know you know this. You also did all the research I did.
Yeah.
But for this podcast, I was asked to do the other night. But she said that like the fun isn't just I'm going to build this and it's going to be perfect. That's one of the great things about it. There's no risk, but you can always just take it apart and start again. And for people who have like responsibility and other forms of structure in this life, yes, this is a form of structure, and yes, this is a form of commands and like expectations for you, but there also is the fact that like, hey, there's like no deadline or pressure to this. And I know like, and I've messed up in sets where I've had to go back like 20 pages and figure out why a brick was in the wrong spot because I didn't pay attention. But like, you know that you can do that. Like, nothing you've done here is permanent, and yet if you want to keep it forever, that's probably an option for you. Like, it's kind of magic in that way of just like, again, like, I don't think if your hobby was needlepoint, if that's what gave you joy, and I have some amazing needlepoint friends, because of course I do, but like, if that's your thing, that oddly is like an old person hobby, and then Lego is like a child hobby, and they're like, cool, direct me to the repetitive process based activity I can do that apparently is the exact age bracket you expect me to be behaving in.
Yeah.
And it's not there because it's called Lego, and it means play well, and we do, goddammit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know what? This whole conversation, I'm on the Lego website right now, and I'm
you should check out. Did you check out Luke's Red 5 helmet? Because they finally figured out how to do an open helmet, and it looks really good.
Yeah, it does look really good. It does look good. Those first few helmets I wasn't really impressed with, but this next round, the Luke's helmet,
have the
Mandalorian
Stormtrooper one.
Yeah,
the Stormtrooper came out okay because it's in a shape that was very friendly to existing Lego angles.
Yeah. But yeah,
one of the problems they were having with the helmets
looks good.
The Mando one looks good. The problem they were having with the helmets, and you really see it on the Batman ones, which is a shame because I'm a huge Adam West Batman fan, as we've referenced several times today. But the Adam West Batman helmet, they tried to use clear blocks for the missing face parts, and it just looks, again, if you're somehow the person who made this, I'm sorry, and you're a lovely human being and you deserve joy and light in your life, it's trash. I hate it so much.
I hate like, clear bricks like that, where it's because then you just see the seams between the clear bricks. Because
the illusion, like, why didn't you at that point just do black bricks?
Yeah.
Like, because the illusion of the clear bricks actually looks way more eye-grabbing and distracting than just filling that with another. Like, you could have done like skin tone and not put a face on it. It would have looked better than having clear bricks in there. But on the Red 5 helmet, and there is two people listening to this. One person has completely zoned out, and please be careful while you're driving or walking. And the other person is like the most excited we're getting into this level of minutia.
Yeah.
But the Red 5 helmet is wide open inside, and it's brilliant. And I have the Wedge Antilles Hasbro like super cosplay one. And like between the two of those, it's like, I don't know, Red 5 helmet's kind of more fun. Like the Lego Red 5 is a little more. I can wear this Wedge Antilles one, and it looks great. But like, Lego Red 5 is pretty fun.
They really nailed the goggle part, right? Like the orange goggles.
Yeah. Please, for the love of God, tell me I'm remembering Wedge Antilles correctly as a name. I just thought of that.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Part of my brain was like, oh, you messed that, and someone's typing a comment right now.
No, you got it. You nailed it. Okay. Yeah, man. Yeah, this one does look really good. But my thing with sets like this is always like, well, I can't just get one. You know?
No, that's the problem. Luckily, my Stormtrooper one, I have a little Stormtrooper collection on a shelf.
Yeah.
So it fit nicely into that. But even next to that has like the Brickheads Mando and Grogu and that kind of stuff. A brilliant thing about brickheads, which I saw online while doing other things for my life of involving Lego. Brickheads, when possible, try to put a little pink brick in the middle of the head to
Yeah.
represent the brain, which
Yeah.
is again one of those hidden things where like you don't need to do that. There's no point of doing that. It's funny that you did it.
It took me like 5 or 6 brickheads before I realized what this was, and I think it was doing the Yoda one where it was like it's smaller, and I was like, why is there always a pink brick on the top of like in like the inner structure of the head? And then I was like, this is its brain. It's the
I have the
inside of
black
the
and white
skull.
Frankenstein one, and I don't know if his brain is black and white inside. I forgot to check. But now part of me wants to run across the room and rip the head off this goddamn Lego. I'll send you a photo later, and you can let people know online when it comes out.
Oh, this is also dangerous. I've just discovered that the oh no, this is the Rise of Skywalker Millennium Falcon. Oh, thank God. Okay. Never mind. I don't need that.
The bib.
I saw Lando. I saw Lando, and I was like, how do they still have solo Millennium Falcons in the Lego store? But they don't. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Because I would.
One thing they're doing with the Star Wars sets in particular, I've noticed a lot of. They've done it in like Marvel ones, but like some of the Star Wars sets will be like a very dollhouse play set kind of thing, where like walls and roofs and whatnot are missing. The Bib Fortuna Palace set is a good example of this. And then sometimes they'll just be like, "Oh, this is just Mos Eisley," and it's like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, here's a town. You want to build a tiny town? That's an option.
Yeah, they've with Star Wars, because they've done so many of the ships and they've done multiple versions of them. They've gotten into in the last 5 years a lot of scenes, right? So you get like you're getting like a little playset scene, and yeah, those are actually my favorite sets to collect right now. Is those little scenes, and I was on a quest to have one from each of the saga films up on my fireplace on my mantle, but it just they haven't done one for Rise of Skywalker yet. I don't even know. I mean, it would be really cool if they did the fight where Rey and Kylo Ren are in two places, and like if the Lego set was like split down the middle, with like the two scenes. But
has there been a dark fantasy Rey minifig yet? Because it's kind of amazing if there hasn't been.
No, there hasn't. There's not a lot of Rise of Skywalker stuff, and I don't think there will be because the movie.
Not a lot of it's with Rey Skywalker. With the character Rey Skywalker.
Man, I mean, like
that's what the character called herself. That's her name. That's just how it works.
Oh, I'm not phased in the least by you calling her Rey Skywalker. That's her.
I just love doing that on TikTok because it drives engagement for me. As men with small minds lose their small minds.
Look, listen, Rey is actually the granddaughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the whole Palpatine thing is when they do 10, 11, and 12, it'll turn out that like Palpatine was lying the whole time. Like
they're taking a lot of authority off of the worst person on all
off of a guy who's very well known for being deceitful and manipulative.
Yeah, well, he must be telling the truth. What other motivation would he have to lie?
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. So Jodie Comer, who plays Rey's mom, still doesn't have a name. Still, that character still doesn't have a name. It is the year 2022, and that character still has no name.
Yeah. The fact that Grogu doesn't have like a, I mean, I know there's like the air quotes mystery box of it, but it's really more just we forgot of like, well, his name's not Baby Yoda. Well, tell me the baby thing he is of, and I'll call him that. But I don't know what that is.
That's a George decision that they have to hold on to, that they have to honor. Is that George always said he would never say what species Yoda is. Yeah. There's like I'm sure it's in like the story group Bible of like, you can't do this. Like Yoda has to remain mysterious, and
I don't see how that adds to anything, but yeah,
it's just one of those rules. It's just one of those things. But yeah, I don't know. I've lost the plot now. at this
That's
point.
fair.
But
Well, I was talking about Rey Skywalker, the Rise of
oh
Skywalker
yeah,
not doing well. The fact that we lost out says, oh, here's so speaking of films and franchises and Legos, Lego is also the leading source of movie leaks out of anything in
yep,
franchise
yep.
history.
We
It's
just
Lego and Funko Pops. It's the two of them
yep.
that will just spoiler the hell out of, to the point where now it seems like the companies are trolling them back. Like the Hulk coming out of the Hulkbuster Funko. It's like that didn't actually like they might have scripted that, but then they changed it and just never told them to not release that figure.
It no. So what happened there is that in the script, that's what was supposed to happen. Is that originally in Infinity War, at the end of the movie, he was supposed to bust
Hulk
out of the
out.
Hulkbuster as the Hulk. But then they decided actually, I think they decided in reshoots that they weren't going to do it. That they were going to save the smart Hulk reveal for Endgame.
Which I think was a better choice.
Oh yeah, it's 100% a better choice. The Russos are very smart and very shrewd, and the decisions that they made while making Infinity War and holding certain things for Endgame all of them were very smart decisions. But yeah, so that's why there's a bunch of marketing stuff where it's like that they move forward on a bunch of that stuff, and then it wasn't until reshoots like really late in the day that they switched up that part of the story. But it's funny because all of the Marvel stuff has been delayed because of the pandemic. So but the Lego sets have release dates like 3 years out, right?
Yeah.
And so like once those release dates are set, there's not a lot of shifting that they're willing to do, that Lego is willing to do, because
I won't say
obviously
what
it's such a well-oiled machine, right?
I won't say which
um
franchise that I'm like adjacent to on this that had that problem, but there was a project I was working on that got pushed back a year, just because like, hey, let's just like make it a better thing, release it the year. It's business wise totally logical decision.
mhm.
But there was a toy tie-in for it, and they're like, yeah, those toys are shipping. And
Yeah,
they're like, oh, like you're sending those out because that's also like an industry term for we're moving this along is to ship
yeah,
something. And they're like, no, they are physical objects on a ship headed for North America. They will be in stores this summer.
yeah.
like, but there's no game to back them up. Well, let's hope they do good. Like maybe it'll be like a He-Man thing where the toys hype the show. I don't know what to tell you, but
Yeah,
like those are gonna be on shelves, so we're just gonna live with that because there's no like we can't just put those in a warehouse until you're
yeah.
ready.
So yeah, so I think I oh man,
But
they
their
got
release stuff, there's people now troll Lego and Funko sites to
yeah,
get news that they can write on their nerd sites that are not Lego and Funko related. But
yeah,
they're like, oh, apparently in the next Doctor Strange is going to have this in it because it's in the Lego set. But then
yeah.
they also will just like throw in random BS. So
So they use this to their advantage with Spider-Man No Way Home, and they put out a bunch of sets for No Way Home with the No Way Home branding on them that are actually like inspired by moments from the
yeah, like
Spider-Man
the Vulture
MCU.
was in one of them, and I
Yeah,
actually became sure he was going to show up in the movie because he was in the
yeah,
Lego set.
yeah, and they did that on purpose in order to throw people off. But one of the new sets that was just revealed is the Thor one,
Right? Yeah, yeah.
of the goat boat, as it's being called,
I
and
enjoyed the
it's
Go
like,
Boat.
and it's actually like it's actually a pretty big reveal of some mythical Norse characters coming into the
Spoiler for
MCU.
Lego sets
Yeah,
in retro. But yeah, there's a bunch of it's interesting to see those and like I said, like that weird dynamic between the two. I am a person who has become exhausted by this intentional spoilerism of stuff. I think
yeah,
nowadays companies, it would be great if they could work in secret. Trailers had no content besides the title and release date, and the movie could just come out and live or die on its own. But I know that is not the horrifying teeth of the machine of the cogs we spin within. But like, seriously, a Star Wars movie could just say Star Wars December 2023, bye, and like tickets
yeah,
are sold. You're done. You do not
yeah,
need to show us anything, and it's
yeah.
gonna sell, if anything, more tickets because we didn't get to see this stuff. But that's just not how it works nowadays.
I think I'm probably on the opposite end of the spectrum from you, of like, you know what, I don't care. Just put out your stuff and I'll avoid it if I don't want to watch it.
Well, it
Um
becomes this interesting issue too, where now we're coming into, like you said, with the delayed release. like when the Star Wars movies comes out, it's like, where if it was Christmas, where was all the Grogu toys? They weren't calling
Yeah.
it, they were saying Baby Yoda. It was like, well, we had to, because you guys troll toy websites looking for spoilers.
Yeah.
We had to delay the process of making the, because like they lose control at the point of production. Like they know, like, oh, as soon as a human being makes this toy, it's out in the world somehow. So it's like, yeah, we had to delay all of that so that you could actually have a clean moment of cinema like we intended. Like, but now, yeah, you don't get to hug the doll for another couple months.
Yeah. I don't know. It kind of just is what it is at this point, right? Like it's the whole, this is my thing, especially with Star Wars, and Marvel suffers from this a little bit as well, but less so because the stories tend to be a little bit better structured. And Kevin Feige, I think, has a better idea overall of what's going on and manages that in a better way than the group at Lucasfilm is doing with their stories. But this, just the way that stories are being structured to cater to the surprise reveals. And I know why, like, I understand why you want people on your platform watching your show. So you have to create FOMO. And the best way to create FOMO is, oh my God, do you know who shows up at the end of Hawkeye?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't started Hawkeye yet.
Corner and wave and like.
Yeah. And it's like, so I guess now I gotta watch Hawkeye because I gotta see this character who's gonna show up in Hawkeye. And it's like, yeah, but you know, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It's not gonna affect another story that you're watching. It doesn't change Spider-Man, right? Like,
no.
But with the Star Wars stuff, it's like with this season of Boba Fett, it's like
you can't watch Boba Fett without having watched Mandalorian. Otherwise, stuff just has no emotional weight to it.
Yeah, and also, like, there were a lot of people who were like thrown off by choices in this season of a show titled Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And it's like, but if you had just shown us a trailer with certain characters from the outset, then we would have had our expectations set appropriately. And instead of being blindsided by, wait a second, what? In the middle of a show about Boba Fett, we're going to get an episode all about that guy? It's like, instead we would have been sitting there the whole time watching the show going, how does he fit into this? How are we going to end up there? Right. And it turns out that we just end up there because they just stop the story and go there. Right. But at least we would have been expecting at some point that we were going to go to this other place and be with these other characters. Right. And there's still certain things that you can save for reveals, but I just think that, like, if the reveal takes the wind out of the sails of the story, then the reveal wasn't worth it to begin with. Right. It's like the mystery box stuff, right? Like, I'm so sick and tired of having to write notes about the show that I'm watching to try and figure out what the hell this is actually about. And Mandalorian is a really great example of, like, what is this show actually about? Why don't you just state it empirically in words, what we're working towards, so that we can stop having expectations one way or the other. And it's like, because I watched the Mandalorian shows, and I'm like, well, this is Arthurian, the Darksaber is Excalibur, Grogu is the Holy Grail, and all of these Mandalorian characters are the Knights of the Round Table. So stopping and doing a Boba Fett show makes a lot of sense to me, because it's like, oh, this is the Green Knight. Boba Fett's going to go off on a sojourn, and he's going to come back a more complete character.
Question, is it the Green Knight or is it the A24 Green Knight? Because there's a very important belt thing that might happen that I will not specifically call out, but it is very belt related.
Very belt related. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, we're gonna have these side stories that are all going to feed back into the larger story of Arthur and Camelot.
But in the middle of the Green Knight, they don't go for, like, anyways, here's an adventure Arthur's having right now, and you're like, cool, thanks for
you know what, in the middle of the A24 Green Knight, if they had suddenly stopped and been like, and here's 15 minutes about Lancelot, I would have been like, yeah, okay, I mean,
that was kind of the pace of that film, though.
it makes as much sense as the rest of this brilliant piece of art that was created solely for people like us to be like,
When I was
that's art.
watching that, I literally was like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to be watching right now. And my partner was like, do you want to stop? No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I finished that movie, and I think I talked about it on the podcast where I was like I absolutely loved how confused and enamored I was with this movie. There's definitely very deep, thoughtful stuff going on, and there's not a frame out of place. Like, everything in that movie is so blisteringly intentional, but way over my head.
It's like
I need a Cliff Notes in order to watch this movie. Somebody needs to explain what I'm supposed to be getting out of this, but I know that it's there, and so I love it.
It's a conversation where about half an hour in, you realize you've been on mute this whole time and they've not heard any of your questions. And
Yeah.
then like, yeah, so then they see the giants and the giants hold them in their hand for a bit. Anyways, back in the forest, we're going on like, wait, no. Explain no, you're just moving on? Okay, well.
Yeah, so is the fox like his inner spirit, or is it his mom, or
yeah,
is it
so then
God?
they do a camera obscura where like his image is projected upside down. It's kind of cool. It's an actual technique they used to use for painting. A lot of people used to call that cheating, and nowadays tracing over digital is cheating. So that's an interesting conversation. Anyways, he's kissing this guy, and it's like, all right. So I'm looking forward to the Green Knight set coming out from Lego. It'll have to have its own built-in comic so children understand.
It's definitely a Lego Ideas. Did you see the tall neck the from Horizon?
That's on my note list of Horizons Forbidden West tall neck, and I was actually gonna bring that up when you were talking about pieces having lots of little pieces.
Yeah,
because the king of how many detail studs can be put on this is the Horizon Forbidden West tall neck.
They are definitely, Sony and Lego are definitely watching this set, and if it sells well, there will be more. It's just like any of the Lego Ideas stuff, like Ghostbusters, right? One of the very early Lego Ideas sets that came out was that.
I will forever be sad I do not have the Ghostbusters Firehouse, though.
Oh yeah,
it is a giant glaring gap, and I've looked at it on eBay, and I've considered that amount of money, but nah.
Yeah, it's a big regret for me as well. But yeah, like they test the waters with the Lego Ideas stuff, and then if it works, they double down on the licenses, and
like Friends and Seinfeld works, and now we're getting an Office set coming up, which as a building set is one of the most boring franchise sets that is possible for the build, and all the scale, because the house sets work okay.
Yeah,
like Seinfeld's apartment and the Friends like cafe and apartment, those work okay, but building a tiny functional office does not work right.
Yeah.
In it, but at the same time, my brain's like, but you could have a Creed Bratton minifigure. And I'm like, that is a valid point, brain.
It's amazing how much money I will spend for a minifigure. It is amazing because I have done it, especially with the Iron Man ones. But
I do want to mention one special build. I'm just gonna put this out there, and this might put a little cap on everything for us. If you buy the Majestic Tiger build, which is a lovely set for a nice looking tiger, I think it's the first time Lego ever got you to make a butthole. I just want to let everyone know that if you buy the Majestic Tiger set, it makes you put a little flower under the tail of the tiger so that it's anatomically correct. And I think that is the funniest thing in the entire goddamn world, was because I work at corporate level toy making stuff, and I know that's not one meeting.
Yeah,
that's not one person making a whip decision one afternoon of like, you know what, let's put a little pink flower under the tail. Like, that was a couple meetings. Color and shape was discussed. Like,
yeah, there was definitely a PowerPoint with at least 3 choices of which brick they were going to use.
And like at the same time, I feel like it was presented like, this is a funny joke that someone will stop us from doing all the way to production, that like never hit that punchline, but the actual punchline was, now people own it.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the builders being like, it would be hilarious if we got this through. And they put the one stud there, and they were like, this one. And then the note came back of like, we're gonna need to see some options.
Yeah.
Can you guys send it? Can you guys send us back? And it's like, okay, all right.
100%.
And yeah, and it
100%.
definitely got away from them. It's like, as a designer, a lot of the time, what I'll do is I'll the client or like if I'm doing freelance or like my managers or whatever will ask for options, right? They want to see a couple of different things to choose from, and so you're like, okay, I know which one I want to use, and ultimately it's actually probably going to be my call, especially my day job. It's like creative director. It's most of the time it is my decision at the end of the day. I'm just getting sign off, right? But I'm going to give you guys 3 options, and one option is great, one option I can live with, and one option is just so bad that it's going to make the other 2 options look great.
Right. It's a classic technique. They know you're doing it too, but
4
it's
out
up to
of
them to figure out which
yeah,
one's the good one.
4 out of 5 times they pick the ugly one. And then you have to go, great, I love, okay, we're gonna pick that one, and now I have to iterate on the ugly one to get it closer back to the good ones. Don't tell my bosses that that's what I do.
That's fair.
But,
I mean,
they're not listening to this
I hand into work to a company, and I won't say again which company, but they're more than meets the eye, and knowing them is half the battle. And it's fine. I think legally I'm fine here. And and every couple months I hand in work to them, and I out loud say to the person who's handing it out to clearances, well, that's it. That's the dumbest thing I've ever made. That's coming back immediately. We should be prepared to fix what I've just done. And every single time, it has gone all the way through with no notes. So I want to say that, like, just bless their hearts. And I definitely did a full Mean Girls story the other week, and just no one stopped me.
It's fantastic. I love how you've pushed the boundaries on
Thank you.
on some of that stuff.
I will say my favorite note, and this is on brand for me, because it's also translated into 17 languages because it's an international event whenever it happens. And there was a note from one of the translators that said, like, do not understand reference. And then a different translator underneath said, when in doubt, assume Ghostbusters. And I'm like, these people know me.
Yeah, they know you. You have a signature.
Yeah. Like they know that if you just Google that line plus the word Ghostbusters, it's gonna pop up.
I'm gonna get this majestic tiger set. But not
you
for
can make a lot of different animals with it too. It's actually a very good learn and play set. Like, it's a genuinely good set.
I'm not getting it for the tiger. I'm getting it for the red panda. But
but you have to build the tiger, take one photo, and then build the red panda.
Oh yeah, of course. It's a 3-in-1, right? So you look at, because when you get the creator sets that are 3-in-1, you take the books and like the instruction booklets. Sometimes they'll do them as like fully separate booklets, right? But this is a $65 set, so I'm sure that they did. And what you do is you build them in order of like I don't like the koi fish that much, so I'm going to build the koi fish first, and then I'm going to take that apart, and then I'm going to build the tiger, and I'm going to go, that's pretty cool. Look at the tiger's butthole. I'm going to post that on Instagram.
There's your pull quote for the episode.
Yeah. and then I'm gonna dismantle that, and then I'm gonna build the red panda, and then I'm gonna put the red panda somewhere with his little flower and his little bamboo stalk.
And you'll just know that somewhere on that red panda is the ghostly remnant of a tiger butthole.
Yeah, exactly. And really at the end of the day, that's where the joy of building Lego comes in.
I also want to say ghostly remnant of a tiger butthole is my REM cover band.
Excellent. You know what I am gonna say, so tiger, the butthole on the tiger is definitely a first. Like, I've never seen a Lego set with an actual like pucker up butthole, but I will say the Lego.
I love how many times we've said tiger butthole on this.
It's fantastic. I mean, like, for whoever's listened this far into the episode, we're an hour and a half in talking about Lego.
You're dug deep in at this point. We are. Again, look out on your walk. Be careful on your drive. I hope you're sleeping deeply because I assume that's what you did with this.
It's just ASMR. I should put, because there is the Lego ASMR album, and I should just put that in the background of this whole episode.
Mhm.
I don't think we'll get in trouble. We're talking over it. It's fine. It's also free on iTunes and stuff. So,
Okay.
but the I'm looking at it right now. The Ghostbusters Peter Venkman Slimer brickheads.
Oh yeah. Those are solid.
Slimer does have 2 circle plates on his posterior.
He does. He got a booty.
He has a butt. He does definitely have a distinct left and right cheek. And it was my favorite part of that set.
I'm like, he has those hot dogs. So if I have those hot dogs in the Tiger set, now stay with me. What I can do is
Schween, and we're out.
Yay! We end as we begin on the Schween.
On the Schween. As so many things do. When I thought the other day, I am running out of time to ask somebody to do this, and I really hope that Tyler says yes and is available.
Did you know this was what was coming of it?
I didn't know where that was gonna lead us, but I knew that I would be happy with where it did, and I have no regrets. I have 0 regrets.
Done. We're good.
This is a great episode. Yeah. And this is the part where we sign off. Do you want tell people where they can find you if you want them to find you anywhere?
Oh, sure. You can find me posting regularly on TikTok. If you want a fun time, Google Ships of the Northern Fleet on TikTok and just follow that rabbit hole as deep as you can. But you can find me on TikTok at Mr. Nicol, MisterNickel. A lot of people want to put LE. That's not how you spell words. And you can find me if you like drawings of cosplay girls doing pin-up. Then congratulations, follow at Dork Zombie on Instagram, and you too will have to turn your phone slightly away from other people when you're on the bus.
Excellent. Thank you, Tyler, for being on this episode.
My pleasure.
Just talking about Lego for an extended period.
Today's episode was brought to you by Tiger Buttholes.
Pucker up. Excellent. You guys know the whole deal. Here's the thing. Next week, I'm actually going on vacation, and I'm on vacation on Monday and Tuesday.
Gasp.
I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll record an episode in advance. Maybe I'll get an episode late. It's all going to depend on how I'm feeling. And if today was any indication, I probably won't want to do that in advance. I'll probably want to do that after. So, you'll get your exclusive episode. All right. You'll get your pound of flesh.
We talked for a while on it.
Yeah. No, this is just a regular episode. I'm talking about.
What about the Patreon thing we did? That's not.
That was just
me talking to you, and it wasn't even for broadcast. What the hell was the point?
That releases this week alongside the regular episode.
Oh, thank God! I don't just talk to people.
Yeah. No, I have to do like an exclusive that's only for specific people on Patreon. Next week.
Oh, well, if the people really knew what was good for them, they'd up that Patreon level now, wouldn't they?
They would. It's only $5. Only $5.
It's only $5. What are you going to do with that $5? You know what you're going to do? You're going to waste it. You should give it over to Patreon. I'm a great ad. I'm good. It's like my job is this.
Thank you for that ringing endorsement. It's fantastic. But yeah, so I don't know. You guys will get an episode next week, but it might be late. Thank you for listening. I am gonna be shocked if you guys all listen all the way to the end. I mean, I know some of you will.
If you listen all the way to the end, you need to go onto the Instagram channel, and the password is chariots, and you just write it down, and that way we know you made it this far.
There you go. There's a few sickos that I know that are listening all the way to the end, no matter what. Thank you for listening to this. It's actually a pretty long episode. Just talking
it's a very long episode, and it meanders like just everywhere.
Just a nice lazy river of Lego bricks, which sounds very uncomfortable.
And now to play you out, here's Survivor with Brown Eye of the Tiger.
Follow the Thunderquack Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by searching the Thunderquack Podcast. You can support us in 3 ways. First, by heading to the podcast service of your choice and leaving a rating and review. Second, by going to store.thunderquack.com to pick up some merch from your favorite podcasts. And last but not least, by heading to patreon.com/thunderquack to kick in with your monthly pledge of support and get cool rewards like early access and extended episodes. The Thunderquack Podcast is the official podcast of thunderquack.com. Head to thunderquack.com to discover more great podcasts.